everybody. Welcome to the Just One Word podcast. And today I have a very special guest, someone who I've always wanted to get to know better, an incredible coach, speaker, author, and just incredible human being. And we're going today to find out her dig word. So please welcome Cynthia James.
Thank you, Erin.
Hello,
I'm so
Cynthia.
happy to be here and get to do the dig with you.
I know, how fun. Well, you got to know the drill. I've talked you through the whole dig process, but everybody who might be watching for the first time, just wanted to give a quick little blurb overview. The dig is a process to help us to discover our purpose and to hyper distill it down into just one word. And the way that we figure that out is we go through your life story. So we go backwards in order to go forwards. Go through your life story. We find out those one word themes that keep popping up. So today, what we're going to do is Cynthia is going to share a bit about her life story. And I'm going to be pulling out these one word themes in the background. I'll share my screen about halfway through today's episode. And maybe while you're listening to her story, you can be thinking about what are those words, those one word frequencies that keep popping up in your mind as you're listening. And the whole idea behind all of this is that we can live more from a place of purpose if we can hyper distill and have epic clarity of who we are, what we stand for, and how to express it in the world. So, without further ado, why don't you give me the backstory? Where are you from? Where were you born? What was childhood like?
Well, I was born in Minneapolis, Minnesota,
Mm.
and my mom was a single mom. She was married to my father, my biological father, but he was an alcoholic and he floated in and out and then sort of disappeared. And my mother was living with my grandmother, and she met this man who became her second husband, my stepfather. But he was a police officer by trade, but he was a wife beater and ended up being a pedophile. So
Oh,
by the time I was 6 years old, it was, I mean, I would literally hear my mother screaming at night, and then in the daytime, he had this kind of private room, and nobody could go in there without his permission, and that's where he would take me and do all kinds of things. And it was very interesting because I knew what was happening was wrong. I was terrified of him, but I
mm,
would go in my room, and my room was my I'm going to call it my fantasy place because I could be safe in there. So I would sing, I would dance, I would make up stories and
mm,
um and um and then I would keep my head down, with him. And every once in a while, because I will say this, there is a rebel that lives within me. And
I
so
love that.
so she would pop out periodically and then she'd get in trouble.
Mm,
But where I thrived was in school because I was smart. I could learn things really quickly without a bunch of studying. And the more things I was involved in school, the easier it was for me to stay away. So when a little after like 6 and a half, my uncle came to the house where we were with my stepfather and got me and my mother, and we threw all of our stuff in a sheet and got in the car and we went to live with my grandmother. And my grandmother, how do I put this? I come from 5 generations of women. All of them have been, abused, traumatized, but
mm,
they all prophetic dreamers and
mm,
and connected to wisdom. I mean, just
mm,
and so um it was very interesting because my grandmother kept saying, listen, you're going to be on a mountaintop. I see you on this mountaintop. And she
mm,
took me to this tea leaf reader, and the tea leaf reader said, oh, you're going to be able to read between the lines. And I'm thinking,
mm.
but I'm seven. What the heck does all that mean?
Yeah.
But it got me through high school, and I was on the debate team. I was on the chess team. I was a cheerleader. I did all those kinds of things because it felt like the truth is that I could create a mask where people couldn't see what was inside. And
Mm,
and so if you look at my yearbook from high school, all these people, you're so talented, you're so this, you're so that, but it was my protection.
mm,
And so I got out of high school and I went to college for a while, but we didn't have money, so I couldn't get a scholarship. So, I burned out after like a year and a half, and I went to New York and to work for Trans World Airlines. And at that time, there weren't very many black hostesses. They called them hostesses that time. But it was great because I'm in New York. I'm flying all over the world, and it felt like the flying was my freedom. It
Mm,
it was my way of spreading my own wings and stepping out and tapping into my creativity. Now, I sang in high school, but I was shy, even though I loved being on stages, and I there was something that I pulled the energy back. And so I just hung out with celebrities and entertainers and stuff like that while I was in New York. And I but New York is a, how do I put this? New York is an intense environment.
mm,
And um what it did was it literally mirrored back to me my unresolved issues, my pain,
mm,
all of that. And so I went back home and I decided I was going to model again. And I went to have pictures taken. And the photographer said, "Oh, you should be in the Miss Minnesota Universe contest." And I laughed. I said, "There's no black beauty queens. What are you talking about?" He goes, "There are two." I said, "Well, forget about it." So when I went back for the next session, he handed me an envelope and he said, "Well, they seem to think you'd be a good interview." So I go in and I interview, and I have nothing to lose because I don't even think it's going to happen. So I'm really calm and poised, and I get in the contest and I become Miss Minnesota Universe. And
mm.
no, it's like it, and I didn't tell anybody because I was like, I am not seeing people having people see me fail. Forget that. So I go to New York and the contest, beauty contests, I mean, it's a business.
Mm,
And at that time, I mean, I had no idea. And so there's a lot of money and time and energy that goes into grooming these girls, and so you can see which ones are going to rise to the top because they've been groomed. And so I sucked. And I mean I it was, and it was a great experience, but I went home disillusioned and feeling like not enough and all of that. And um I decided singing had been my joy.
mm,
And when I was in school, people kept saying they loved my voice, even though it was the time of Aretha Franklin and Gladys Knight, and I was definitely not either one of those.
mm.
But I joined a traveling band, and we traveled all around the country. So this is silly. So there was me, there was another woman, and there was a lead singer, and we were called Yesterday, Today, and Tomorrow. I have no idea which one I was. I just I just was one of them. And but it finally fell apart because it's not an easy life riding around in a bus. And we ended up in Las Vegas.
Mm,
And there was a man there named John Gregory, and he and his wife Helene had been part of the Hollywood structure. Because when you were in the 30s and 40s, you had to be trained in singing, dance, acting, all of that in the studio system, right? Well, they
mm,
had been a part of that. And so they started a school in Vegas to work with young talent. So we had to learn how to do ballet, tap, do all this stuff. And I got a job at the MGM Grand in this show called Hallelujah Hollywood.
mhm,
And uh, at that time, that was the first black line on the strip. And so we didn't realize how important that we were making history. We were just thrilled to be there. And it taught me how to be on big stages.
mm,
It taught me how to fill a space.
mm,
And it was very structured. I mean, there was a person who sat up in the booth and looked and made sure you got everything right and everybody was in sync. But what it let me know was that even though I was feeling insecure, that I had talent and um, that I could be in this big arena. And I got promoted to be like an understudy for the lead.
Mhm.
And it it was wonderful, but in between I had had relationships that had fallen apart because I tell people that my one of my great discovery challenges in life has been relationships.
Mm.
And so I kept picking the same person in a different body
Yeah.
so I could learn the lesson, right?
Yeah.
And so I got married for the second time and went to Los Angeles, and I started studying acting. And my husband and I, he was a singer, and we traveled on cruise lines and we did all of that stuff. And then he started to have emotional issues. So what I realize is, you really attract yourself.
Yes.
Really do. And so, of course, they're not going to have mental acuity because you don't have mental acuity.
They're a mirror. Yeah.
So yeah, so it was like um it 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 started falling apart and I was like I need to find myself. And I was starting to get work. I was the first Lexi on Days of Our Lives and I was starting to get episodic kinds of things. And then there was this show called Star Search.
Mm.
Um I had been in an acting class, and this woman asked me, did I know about Star Search? And I said, yes, I had sent my stuff into them, but I hadn't gotten selected. And she said, that's because you don't know the right people. And I was like, okay. So she gets me at this audition. I go in and I get on Star Search in the acting category, and I win 7 times in a row,
Mm.
which means I'm in the semifinals.
Hmm.
And I come back and I win the semifinals, and then I'm in the finals, and I'm up against the same girl that beat me the first time when I lost.
Hmm.
So I'm really like determined I'm gonna win. So I get a coach and I'm doing all this stuff. And the day of the finals, I I'm so excited and I'm nervous. And the producer, who never has spoken to me, comes and sits down next to me and he says, how'd you think it went? And I said, I think it was good. And he said, why do you think you won all those times? And I'm thinking, why is he asking me that question?
Mm.
And I said, well, I think I'm a good actress and I work hard. And he goes, yeah, all of those things. He said, but that's not why you won. He said, you won because you brought you into every character and I didn't see her today. And I
Mm.
freaked out.
Yeah.
And he said, do with that what you will. So I got up and I went to my room, and my roommate was in the singing category and we were both nervous. So we decided to pray
Mm.
to be the best we could be.
Mm.
And so I went out there, and I mean, and it was a celebrity panel that was going to pick the winners here. And there was a line in it that was weird, and I kind of screwed up the line, but I just let the character take it because I was playing a librarian, right? And and so I win, and Ed McMahon hands me a check for $100,000 on TV.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
So I buy my first house, and I'm getting other roles, and and then let me go back to relationships. So my manager wants to introduce me to his client, and his client is Louis Gossett Jr., the Academy
Mm.
Award winner. And he wants us to go out on red carpets so that we can both get visibility. but he doesn't think it's going to be anything, but it turns into a relationship. And
Mm,
and so we get married, and it's a lifestyle unlike anything I had ever known. I didn't understand red carpets and
mm,
paparazzi and all of that stuff. And he had an addiction issue. And so when the relationship blew up because of the addictions, I was thrown into this weird stupor. And we had kids, and I got to a place where I could barely get out of bed and I was feeling immobilized. And when I was little, this little voice would talk to me. But I never talked about it because it felt like people would think I was crazy, right?
mm-hmm,
But now I'm in bed and this voice says, "Get up. You
mm,
have to reinvent yourself.
mm,
This, this is what you've always done. Get up."
mm,
And I was like, okay. So I did. I was I finally got custody of my one son. The other one was Lou's biological son. I went back to school, the University of Santa Monica, to get a degree in spiritual psychology.
mm,
I was part of Michael Beckwith's community, spiritual community.
mhm,
All of a sudden, spirituality became really important to me. And I started realizing that voice was the voice of my intuitive knowing.
mm.
And I started going, oh, I need to listen to her.
Yeah.
Because when I listen to her, she guides me,
Mm-hmm,
and it always works. When I don't listen is when it doesn't work. And so I got this degree. I went through a whole spiritual practitioner program and ministerial program and became a minister. And I got invited to come to Denver to be an associate minister at a spiritual community called Mile High Church. And there I got to use all of my skills because while I was in school, I was working in corporate communications at a media management company. And so I learned all these skills about communication. And so it became the foundation of my portfolio, my
mm-hmm,
ministerial portfolio. So I was overseeing the music ministry, the women's ministry, all the spiritual practitioners, and I was teaching. I mean, it felt like I had manifested my dream job.
mm,
That went on, and about 7 years in, I was feeling really tired. And my husband kept saying, go to, you need to go to the doctor. And I was like, I'm doing my great life. It's all fine. And finally I go, and they tell me that I'm headed towards Addison's disease, which is adrenal
mm.
failure.
Oh, wow.
And the guy says, he says, you got to change your job or change your life. And I'm like, I'm a minister. I'm not changing my, and he said, then you better change your lifestyle.
Mm,
So the senior minister made me take a 3 month sabbatical. And during that time, I realized that from the time I was little through my entire life, everything I did was to prove my worth.
mm,
Everything I did was to be validated from the outside.
mm,
And what would happen if I validated myself? What
mm,
would happen if I loved myself? So I've written 6 books now, and my fifth book was called "Does My Voice Matter?"
mm,
And it's a memoir-esque book where I look at the 7 decades of my life and what was going on culturally, how it was impacting me, and the choices that I was making, and what lessons I had to learn in each decade to move towards the evolution of finding my voice.
mm,
So I at 11 years in that ministry, again that voice came up and said, "It's time for you to leave. You're done here. Get
mm,
an office and do your work." And I was like, "Get an office and do what? I don't have any clients. I don't have anything." And I got an office with 2 other people, and referrals started coming to me. It was very interesting. I mean, it was so divine.
Mm.
And so I've been doing that ever since. I've been coaching and speaking, and I feel like everything prepared me for the moment that I'm living now.
Mm. And what's that moment like?
In tune,
Mm.
aligned,
Mm.
clear, unapologetic, um, fierce. Um,
Mm.
I feel very anchored in who I am.
Mm.
And it's such a different feeling from how I grew up
Mm.
because I don't have a need to hide anymore. I don't have a need to explain myself. Um, and there is an extraordinary faith in me that I'm going to be taken care of no matter what.
Mm.
And so I can trust it.
Mm. How did you get there? Like, I know you just told the story, but I mean, loving yourself, that's such a big thing. Can you like bring it down a little bit of like if you had to summarize how you actually got to this place?
I think that final divorce when I couldn't get out of bed,
Hmm.
it was like I had to do really deep reflection.
Mm.
And it was like my whole life I had given myself away. I had
Yeah.
become a chameleon
Mm.
for whoever and whatever I was doing. And I was like, well, what? Well, who am I? If I'm
Mm.
not doing that, who am I? And I know this
Mm.
is going to sound silly, but the first thing I did was to take myself to a movie by myself. I had never gone to a movie by myself. And the fear of standing in that line, going to that movie,
Mm.
fascinating to me. But what
Yeah.
it said to me is when you spend your whole life being what other people need, doing what
Mm.
other people need, then you don't get to look at what do you need, what's
Mm.
important to you. So I really went on a quest. I mean, I stopped dating. I mean, I'm married to Carl now, but I mean, I was really for 2.5 years. It was like I'm just going to find out who am I? What do I like to eat?
Mm.
What brings me joy?
Yeah.
What lights me up? And
Mm.
so when I finally met Carl, I was like, okay, this is who I am. Does this work for you? Because if it doesn't, it's okay. But I'm not changing me to make you happy.
Mm. What was his response to that?
Well, I was a surprise. I mean, because I kind of had that conversation with him on our first date. I mean, it's like,
Hmm.
and he said no one had ever been like that with him. But the other part was he said, "Oh, I got to decide if I'm going to take this journey because this is going to be about authenticity and integrity,
Mm.
and and she's not going to settle for less. So I got to decide if I'm ready to go."
Mm. Those words, authenticity and integrity, are
Mm,
those two of your non-negotiables?
100%.
Hmm.
Integrity, authenticity, honesty.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. What would you say the people closest to you would say are your best superpowers and also your darkest shadows?
My superpowers is I am able to see love in everyone and
Mm.
transmit love to them.
Yeah.
I also have, I am gifted at
Mm.
intuitively knowing and seeing beyond appearances.
Mm. Yeah.
Shadow.
Or things you struggle with even, like, or thematically, you mentioned relationships are
Oh,
have been hard.
Well, I think it has to do with safety. I
Hmm.
think protecting myself to stay safe.
Hmm.
But that can look like try to control. That
Yeah.
can look like hiding. Um, or um giving power away.
Hmm. Yeah. Do you feel like the lessons that you've learned, you can only learn with growing older? Or do you feel like these younger people, say in their 30s, could they figure it out too? Or do you have to have this life experience?
Oh, no, I think you can learn it, but I think it involves commitment to self.
Mm,
I think it involves your being willing to do your mental, emotional, physical, spiritual work.
mm,
And a lot of people, when you're young, you want to party or you want to hang out or you want to try all these different things, and it's great.
hmm,
But I think if you really want to get to know yourself at any age, you have to take a deep dive into your spirituality,
mm,
whatever that means. It doesn't have to be religion. It's like, what does that mean? Who who are you in the scheme of the universe?
mm,
What is it that your purpose is encoded within you? It came, but how do you open yourself to allow that to come to the forefront?
mm. Yeah. Hmm. Can you imagine that you're 100 and something years old, you've lived an incredible life, you're feeling complete, you're looking back on your life, you're surrounded by your loved ones, you don't have much time left. What is that departing advice or wisdom that you would leave with the people you care about most?
You are a magnificent masterpiece
Hmm.
and a universal magician.
Hmm.
Everything you need to create a life that is fulfilling and joyous and expansive lives within you.
Hmm. Hmm. What would you say is the word frequency that's over that? Is if you had to pick of all those beautiful words you just said, like is it about creation? Is it about joy? Is it about within?
Mhm. Let me think. Um, okay, it feels like um, majesty, like
Mm.
magnificence.
Mm. How do you define magnificence?
If it were an image, it would be fireworks.
Hmm.
It would be stars exploding.
Ah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ah. That's it's so fun that you said that. I'm gonna now start sharing my screen because I want to show you and everybody watching right now some of the things I've been doing in the background here.
Ooh.
And so I captured some of your story up here, some of your one words, some of your non-negotiables, shadows, superpowers, but really just for this part, kind of pulling out these one word themes. And you never said this, but the word star really popped out. It was so funny how just now you said like that's basically how you're defining magnificence, right? It's like in this there's something, yeah, there's something about you. It feels like kind of cosmic, kind of magical, but also like so human too. Like the human is the vessel for this magnificence. And
Wow.
yeah, yeah, it feels like just it almost feels like in some ways. Now I'm going to start moving these words around because I find that within everybody's purpose is an operating system. It's 10 words or less. They're playing all together somehow with that one word being kind of the team captain, but
Mhm.
there's a bunch of other support words too. And it sounds like um again, this isn't a word you said, I'm just kind of intuiting, but there's almost like this path of learning how to own your magnificence. Like
Mhm.
the word own,
Mhm.
claim. Do you
Mhm.
know the feeling that I'm talking about? Like, do
Yes.
you have a
Yeah.
preference? Like, what do you feel?
I think owning is definitely, I mean, own who you are, own your
Mm,
gifts, own your power.
yeah. Yeah. There's something about that. And it's just like, and it's almost like it sounds like your whole life changed when you owned your full self by
Yeah.
tapping into your spirit,
Mhm.
by no longer playing the chameleon.
Mhm.
And it's almost like all the things in your life started really falling into place the minute you started to own the full self, the owning that you're enough,
Right.
owning your space,
Mm.
owning even space in the body, space in the world, right?
Yeah.
Space on your mountaintop,
Yeah.
owning your wisdom,
Yeah, my voice.
your voice. Yes, I had that up here too. And I love this word. I can honestly tell you, in 13 years of digging, I've dug over 1,000 people. The word magnificence has never come up. And it's so beautiful. And I think there's also another twin word that's working with own. It's almost like owning it and expressing it.
Yes, 100%.
Because it feels like you have like an internal external flow. Maybe everybody does. I don't know if that's a universal truth, but definitely for you, it's like first you have to like own it internally and then you express what you've just owned, right? Like, hmm,
Mhm.
from a place of magnificence, though, that feels important.
Mhm.
Um, owning your worth. Oh,
Mhm.
owning your knowing. Oh my gosh, I feel like all these words below are just like we could probably go on for quite some time. It would get beyond our list of 10, but I do think it just even knowing about what you coach on, what you speak on, even the trips that you plan. Can you speak quickly about what drew you to do that?
Literally, it was that voice. That
Mm,
voice was telling me that I should take people on pilgrimages. And I was like, I don't even know how to do that. And literally, like a few days later, I got a phone call asking me if I would come and teach and bring a group to Chartres,
mm,
France to walk the labyrinth. And so, what I realized is that tours never interested me. Pilgrimage did because it was
mm,
sacred sites and it was learning the spirituality and the sacredness of places and cultures,
mm,
so yeah, yeah.
mm. Yeah. At first, like earlier on, I was thinking, oh, maybe this is like an operating system around relationship. And like, as a lot of times I'll find that people's purpose is usually rooted deeply in their struggles. But I think for you, it was almost like, it almost sounds like the lack of ownership of who you were was leading to relationship problems.
That's
And
right.
then the minute you claimed who you were and you threw it down with your now husband Carl, who I know and adore, like okay, now you have this beautiful marriage, right?
Right,
Like,
that's right. It
mm,
took finding me. And
oh,
the moment I found me, then
mm-hmm,
everything could fall into place because I was no longer looking for myself where I was not.
mm, so good. I love capturing these like
Hmm.
short, non-negotiable things. They turn into, I think I work with a lot of speakers and authors and just people expressing their truth. And it's just like when you can capture those like little snippets they're just so powerful. They're so much more powerful than an hour-long thing, you know? And you say them all the time, by the way, which is why you've been so successful in this work. Oh, okay. I think this is starting to come into view here. I'm going to make a copy of this. So all these words that are over here. Like they feel like they kind of led us to these bigger one word
Yeah.
themes. And just for the sake of time, I'm gonna let these go for now, unless you saw one and you were like, no, no, no. But you said authentic too.
Yeah.
I think these are like very non-negotiable.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And they almost like this is where Google Slides really starts to let me down because I like the way I see this in my mind's eye, it's very energetic. It's like very lots of elements, a lot of activity, but like I'm almost seeing like how our magnificence is in our authenticity and is in being in integrity like with that. And if I had the ability, I would have these like little neon lines like going between this triangle. And then it feels like simultaneously like there's this beautiful like expressing the voice is
Yeah.
constantly like moving. It feels very cyclical here and like owning magnificence, but like, okay, what does that even mean? And then it feels like all of these are feeding into the things you need to own. Own your knowing, own your worth, own your wisdom, own your space, own the fact you are enough, and own just like your simple beingness.
Yes.
Mm,
Because that allows you to be integrous and authentic.
yes.
Hmm.
Oh, this is so beautiful. I get so excited about this stuff. Like I knew it. I knew you were awesome.
It's very cool.
Yeah. Is there a word within here that feels um, like it's really speaking to you more than others, or maybe a cluster?
Well, magnificence for sure.
Hmm.
Um, ex express, but it would be expression.
Mm-hmm.
And I think own, uh, yeah, and integrity. Or actually authenticity, because integrity, if you're authentic,
Yeah.
authenticity is
Then
going
you're
to
in
be,
integrity. It's kind
yeah,
of like a prerequisite, right?
yeah.
Okay. So looking at these ones, I just turned orange here.
Hmm.
Um, Out of these, like maybe you can talk through because we need all these notes to kind of play the game that is
Right.
Cynthia James, right? But like, who's the captain? Who's calling the shots? Who's the boss person?
Yeah. I really do think it's magnificent because
Yeah.
I feel like it supports expression and
Mm,
authenticity and ownership and
yeah.
finding my voice. Yeah,
Mm,
I do. I think it's that burst, it's that starburst. Mm.
yeah. Is there any words on the screen right now that feel like not resonant for you? Anything you'd want to let go of?
Well, hmm. I was gonna say space, but that's not true. Because 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 learning to own my space and my environment, and I'm very particular about how people enter my space.
Mm-hmm.
So no, that so I know they all fit.
Yeah. And just to reflect to you why, like space actually jumped out really fast in this process. When you were talking about your childhood with this man in your life, I mean, the first thing you were talking about was the room.
That's right.
And you talked about as you grew up and you discovered your ability to perform, you were talking about owning the stage, like
Hmm.
another space,
Hmm.
about the first thing you did with your money when you won the Star Search was to buy a home. You know what I mean? Like you have like a lot of space claiming, owning
Hmm.
space themes.
Hmm.
You even just knowing you personally for the past few years, like you're always inviting people to where you live, a beautiful mountain place in Colorado. Like it's just like everything you all could do to like make this incredible home together has been really fun as someone in your community. So I think it's really powerful. And maybe it's like a physical thing that needs to happen in order for people to claim this, the like the more magical space within, you know?
Yes. Yeah.
Hmm. And also safety too, you
Yeah.
mentioned earlier. Like,
Yeah. I think that was one of the bigger journeys is finding my way to
mm,
safety within myself. It's one of the big values of coaching people and doing workshops and
mhm,
speaking is creating safety for that audience.
yeah. Do you find, I'm going to stop sharing this. I think congratulations, by the way. Your dig word is magnificence. Got there in less than an hour. And I almost feel like there is a lot of safety that naturally comes about when people have the ability to be their authentic selves. It's like those two things seem just very intertwined.
Yeah, 100%.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because I think it's a frequency. I
Yeah.
think I think when you're authentic, you're transmitting an energy that engages people and invites them.
Mm. Yes. Yes. As someone who is just here to learn and to teach about magnificence, this magical, starry, um, amazing thing that's within all of us, how in your life do you feel like you've really infused magnificence into it? It could be professional or personal. And what is an area of your life, professional or personal, that you could infuse some more magnificence in it consciously to make it better?
Mhm. I think music has
Mm,
been magnificence has come through because I have composed over 50 songs and I do not read music.
hmm,
It just
wow.
comes and
Mm,
I record it. And I did an album with the Brothers Corin and we did the whole album that way. I just downloaded
wow.
and then yeah, and so and I think that what happens is because it comes through that kind of a transmission, that's what goes out to the people who are listening to the music.
Yeah.
The way I would infuse more now is I'm in the middle of writing a one woman show,
Ooh.
and I think it's an opportunity for me as an actress and a singer to be completely free.
Mm,
I loved the movie Wicked, and I loved it um, because of a lot of things. But one of the things I saw with a lot of the characters, but mostly Cynthia Erivo, was complete abandon and all in energy to create the freedom to be magnificent.
mm, yes. When is this show? Is it in
I don't know.
process or do
It,
you have plans or?
I'm in process with it. I'm writing and I'm having someone that I really trust help me go through it because when you're writing your own one woman show when it's about you, sometimes you're not objective. So
Yeah.
I'm having them do that because I want to take people on the journey
Mm,
of my life using my instrument, my acting instrument, to introduce all those characters and all those aspects of me.
mm, I love that. Well, I want to thank you, Cynthia, for sharing your magnificence with us today. I so appreciate you.
I love that. Can I have a copy of that sheet?
Absolutely. I will send it to you. And thank you all for watching today on Just One Word Podcast.